Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as we discuss talent acquisition, finding and attracting the right talent for your business. So, as consumer confidence increases and retail traffic follows suit, how are you rebuilding your team? How are you adequately staffing your business? And how has the job landscape changed after COVID? These are all things that our clients are grappling with right now. And it prompted us to partner with our friends at the Fashion Scholarship Fund to produce this panel discussion for you today. So before I turn it over to Mike and Mark at Management One, I wanted to thank our wonderful panelists today. We tried to get a diverse group of folks from both sides of the coin. So I wanted to welcome on Peter Arnold, Executive Director of the Fashion Scholarship Fund, Dana Elhai, Director of Business Development at 24/7 Talent, and Maureen Doran, owner of Skirt and a veteran M1 client. Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Before we get into the content, I always like to tackle a couple of housekeeping rules to make sure you have the best experience here. So audio is one for sure, and the GoToWebinar panel offers a couple of options for audio, computer or phone. So make sure if you need to do a sound check, we want to make sure you can hear us and see us. The next one is, this is an open panel discussion, so use the questions panel in GoToWebinar. We will have a Q&A at the end, so please feel free to share questions, challenges, success stories, whatever you like to share with the panel, and we will address that towards the end. The most common question that we get is, are you recording this? And we absolutely are recording this. We will distribute a recording of the video within about 24 hours after the session ends. So who is Management One? For those of you who aren't familiar with us, thank you for joining us today. Management One, our main purpose is to provide financial security for our people, our clients, and our affiliates. And we do that through merchandise intelligence and education, like this session here, for independent retailers. We operate under a set of core values, including a generous heart, courage, curiosity, adaptability, key in the last 12 months, commitment, and collaboration, like these sessions here. And we've made a specific commitment to increase racial and ethnic diversity over the last 12 months. And we have a couple of programs in development that we're going to be rolling out soon. So we're definitely excited to share those with you. But for now, I will turn it over to Mike Alec, President of Management One.
Excellent. Great. Thank you, Nico. Well, it's a pleasure to be here today. And it's a particular pleasure to be here with the Fashion Scholarship Fund and Peter Arnold and this great panel. You know, I'm a member of the board of the Fashion Scholarship Fund. It's a real, you know, I see the Fashion Scholarship Fund's mission up front, up close, and I really think it is a powerful one. Peter will talk more about the Fashion Scholarship Fund during the panel. And this panel, I think is going to be excellent. You know, we really have great panelists lined up for you today. You're going to learn a lot, I think, about practical steps you can take to attract talent to your business, to find the right people, to retain them. You'll get a great overview of what's going on in the market. I think it's going to be really valuable. There will be Q&A at the end. And before Q&A, stick around. We're going to have a special opportunity for members of the Management One community related to a new program the Fashion Scholarship Fund is rolling out, and we're really excited about it. So with that, I will turn it over to Mark. Mark White, CEO and founder of Management One.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. And I want to thank you for bringing us to the Fashion Scholarship Fund. I know that you had a relationship with them in your previous work. Grateful for I'm grateful to you for developing the partnership with Management One. So we're proud to be here today and pleased to have the opportunity to introduce the Fashion Scholarship Fund to our community. Especially want to thank the FSF for developing today's session, especially for you. There's a lot of conversation about employment and hiring and keeping and attracting good talent. We're excited to be able to have that discussion. It's extremely timely. We know that many of you are concerned about hiring and retaining top employees, so I think that we have a lot of good information to share. The FSF is the nation's foremost nonprofit devoted to building a strong and diverse talent pipeline. for our sectors, and theirs is a unique perspective. So we're anxious to get into that. So thank you very much. And I want to now turn this over to Dana of 24/7 Talent to share their perspective on recruiting and finding and acquiring talent. They've done a study and they have an overview that I think you're all going to find very interesting. So thank you, Dana.
Thank you, Mark. And thank you so much for having me here today. 24/7, for all of you who may not know, is a global recruitment firm specialized specifically on placing freelance, full-time, and executive talent. So each year, for probably the last 10 years, we conduct an annual compensation and benefits job market study. We had done it for many years, physical, actual surveys. And as the digital age has taken over in the last, 8 years, we really produce this on a digital basis annually. And I will say that for small to large companies, the information is invaluable. It really gives you an aerial view specifically of the market, what drives candidates to want to engage in conversation about new opportunities, what companies can do to differentiate themselves in the marketplace, how small companies that have more ability to make decisions in a quick manner can really be ahead of the game when it comes to engaging and retaining talent. So again, this is done on an annual basis. And this year's survey was conducted in Q1. We had 500 plus recipients and 67% of those were management level above. The recipients that received the survey really range from both candidates as well as clients and at all levels. So it could be C-level down to more, 2 years of work experience. You can go to the next one. So talent on the move, no surprise here. Compensation continues to be a talent flight trigger. Candidates want to see what's their worth, what could they be offered, how can their skill set be more in demand now than before. I mean, it is no surprise that we are seeing such an uptick on digital talent. Candidates could be making a substantial increase in salary just by moving positions because it isn't so much in demand. And that goes along with even retail stores. As stores can continue to open and pivot their businesses, we are seeing that even in specific markets that are definitely more competitive now, are seeing an increase of $10,000 to $15,000 for store management, just because there's a lot more clients hiring than there are candidates at the caliber that they're looking for. So here, you see talent is extremely poachable. Only 2 in 10 stay because of what they're being paid. So that's why, it is important to, yes, have a budget in mind, but have a max in mind. What is the most that you're offering to pay this candidate and how much flexibility is there? And just 1 in 3 of employees saw a raise in 2020, and only 4 in 10 employers report raises are in their budget for 2021. So just engaging in conversation with candidates and having a clear understanding of what the compensation looks like today and how can they increase that compensation, whether it be having quarterly bonuses or reaching specific goals or offering a bonus on a annual basis. So I think it really, again, having that understanding that it is more competitive than ever and how you can differentiate yourself on compensation is really going to yield more candidates interested in opportunities. So top talent landscape, teams are scrambling to fill specialized skill set gaps with both freelance and full-time talent. So I say that because yes, in a perfect world, many clients, they want to see full-time people. We budgeted for a full-time person. Well, sometimes you're not finding that full-time person that checks off all the boxes in as timely of a manner as you would like. So what we're seeing is some clients just to get the team the support or have a specific initiative or task finished. They are hiring freelance talent while they're looking for full-time talent. So just putting it in terms of the retail market, we're getting a huge uptick in temporary stock associates and sales associates. And when we have that conversation of why is this position open? Why is this a need? They said, well, we have 2 open headcounts to find someone on a full-time basis, but we haven't found that person yet, but our team needs the support. So we're going to hire somebody on, for 4 weeks as we're involved in the interview process for someone on a full-time basis. And that also goes with corporate positions. Somebody needs a web designer and they are searching and they really want someone that checks off all the boxes. But in the meantime, they need a campaign to be run or they need graphics to be changed. So maybe they complement that with a graphic designer for 2 weeks to just do a quick fix on the website. So we're really seeing clients try to be flexible and have immediate support for the needs while they're looking for someone on a full-time basis. And then on average, top job seekers are seeing, you could go back, sorry, courted by 3 employers. And I say this because especially for smaller organizations where they may not have as lengthy of an interview process, use that to your advantage to court that candidate. If they can meet with a manager on Tuesday and on the same day or in the same conversation, meet with a director, and then their final interview is with a vice president or a C-level, close the gap of the window of interviewing, because that will make a huge difference to court that candidate. Because we are seeing now, we have somebody interview on Monday, the next interview is not until Friday, and Wednesday, they're getting called about another job. So use that really to your advantage to close the gap of interviewing and time to interview. Yep. So awareness, talent is keenly aware of care and support. Again, I bring this to your attention because even 24/7, relatively speaking, we are a small business. And I think between our marketing team and our executive team, they've done an incredible job of communicating not only resources for our emotional wellness, our physical wellness, but also really promoting work-life balance. So whether it be you have the ability to give people Summer Friday or a mandatory, take the day off, or just emotional wellness where we as a company, our marketing team works closely with our executive team to offer virtual meditation classes or virtual physical fitness classes. And everybody, it could be 30 minutes, it could be an hour, or a subscription to apps where they can have a trial for 30 days, really to promote that that wellness, not only of work, but also to separate and check in on your employees. Every week, our CEO sends out an email, the state of the organization, but also just checking in with everybody. How's everybody doing? What's going on? So if you have the ability to really promote that within your organizations, now more than ever, candidates are really asking those questions. What are the additional perks you can offer? And whether it be online classes or emotional support, or even having a financial consultant that once a month you have the ability to meet with this person and talk about your finances. Those little things really, really add up when it comes to an employment brand. So remote work, flexibility, and our studies show that one of the top 5 most valued perks and benefits is remote work. So now it gets a little bit tricky because companies are going back into the office, and what does that mean? Will the person have to go back into the office 5 days a week? Will they have flexibility of going back to the office 5 days a week, but also be able to work from home as needed 2 to 3 days a week? So again, that adds to your employment brand and working to your advantage, being a smaller organization, if you can give people that opportunity, we are seeing candidates turn down offers that may be more lucrative financially, but because they have the flexibility to work from home a few days a week or solely work remotely, that's putting some organizations and some opportunities ahead of others, because after 2020, we are really seeing that now more than ever, whether it be childcare issues or just the person has moved, right? So people have moved, but they could be the best candidate for the job. Having flexibility when hiring is really allowing you to cast a wider net of candidates that could be the right fit for you. And again, defining flexibility. 64% of employees choose when they work during the day. So some companies are getting creative. You know, you don't want to say that the candidate, that a specific employee can't get the job done in the 8 hours that they choose to work. So maybe they have childcare needs or an elderly parent needs in the morning, but they can work until 9 o'clock at night. You know, really clearly defining what that means for your organization. Like they have to be on these certain meetings every week, but I don't care if they work 1 to 9 or 9 to 5. But having that clear understanding with the employee of what their expectations are before they join the organization is critical. And off the bat, and again, that goes to how important it is to define your employment brand. If your company, off the bat is just flexible, then that should be really highlighted, not only in the benefits, but in the first initial interview, because I will tell you that will attract talent more than ever right now. 1 in 3 companies customize benefits to employees' age and stage. Again, that complements what I had just said. Depending on the stage of the person's of life, or maybe just the way they work. Maybe they say, I'm just up and I want to get my day started at 7 a.m. Maybe they're the employee that you say, I'm fine with you working at 7, but I need you to put the time in. Or once a week, you have to be on a 5 o'clock call. So again, defining what that flexibility means to you and how that's going to work with your current operation. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I keep on talking about the employment brands because it is so critical for organizations not only to have to work closely with their marketing team to how they market their product, their who they are and what they do, but now more than ever, having a strong and clear employment brand is so critical. Employees want to work for organizations that have a well-documented DEI track record. What does the landscape and the makeup of your team look like? How do you promote and recruit and really just attract diverse talent? For our organization, we have in 2020, we have launched a DEI task force. We meet on a regular basis. We discuss how we can attract, retain, and align ourselves with organizations where we're going to be able to recruit talent that really are of a diverse pool. And the younger generation value belonging to groups and organizations that bring meaning, where personal values align. Again, so if this is important to your organization and this is something that you're committing time, money, and marketing to, then it should be a part of your values. It should be a part of who you are and what makes the DNA of your organization. And again, these are things that shouldn't be talked about at the offer stage. These are things that should be talked about when you're meeting candidates for the first time. Do you align with certain philanthropic endeavors? You just never know what's going to resonate with a specific candidate. And again, that is just something that a lot of candidates are asking about and want to be a part of. Employees believe it's appropriate for employers to take a stance on social issues of the day. And again, I go back to even what some of our executives are doing. Every week, every Friday, we get that email from our CEO, and it addresses what's going on in news, what's going on in the world right now. So we have those conversations, we discuss them as an organization and what are we doing to be a part of, progress and solutions. So again, I would just stress that I'm really looking at your employment brand and how you are sharing your DEI initiatives in general. And I think I'm going to give it back to
No, I'm going to take over in 2 seconds here.
okay.
Thank you for that, by the way. It's great to get the insight from you from the recruitment standpoint. Before I get into our panel discussion, we did want to throw out a quick audience poll. Just step back, go really high level, and just ask people what their plans are regarding hiring in the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. So let me load this. What's going to happen here on screen, you'll see the poll come up, and just select one of the answers. We'll give it about 30 to 60 seconds, and then we will show the results on screen. There we go. All right, votes coming in quick. And the reason we want to ask this poll as people are voting here is we're hearing a variety of different answers, and we have some questions in this panel discussion that are really addressing the needs for people that are hiring immediately, people that are in the next 3 to 6 months. How are you looking at staffing for holidays? So we really want to make sure that we get a gauge on the audience here. And I'll give it about 10 more seconds. All right. And if our panel can see that there, it looks like we have 48%, nearly half of people need people now. And that aligns with a lot of what we're hearing from our clients too. All right, let me kill that.
That's an interesting stat, Nico. Almost 80% of the viewers listening in today are looking to hire within the immediately or soon thereafter. And I think thinking about hiring now, even for Q3 and Q4, is important because, from a point, we see business accelerating and continuing to accelerate into Q3 and Q4. So that seems to be the general feeling as well. First question is going to go to Maureen. Maureen, you've really had quite the year from managing your staff and your people through COVID to coming out through the recovery period, and now, with people coming back into the store, and so you've had quite the challenging year in terms of managing all that. And I thought maybe if you could share a little bit about what that looked like and where you're at today, and from your perspective, that would be great to hear, and how you've continued to solve this challenge and this opportunity.
Sure. Yes, I mean, like everyone in the retail world, 2020 was challenging, and I leaned heavily on my staff and my team, and that includes, Management One and my amazing affiliate, and you, Mark, and we came out of it, really strong, and I credit that to just a great team, and we, like many of the people polled here, are in hiring mode. I just brought on an executive level employee 3 months ago, and then I just hired 2 new employees. One starts today, actually, is her first day, and one starts next month. So I just kind of definitely am fully immersed in this process right now, because we're gearing up we've had a great, once we reopened in June, we just have been gangbusters kind of since then, and we're gearing up for a great Q4, and we want to be ready for it. So I did close a location, but during the pandemic, but after the pandemic, but we absorbed a lot of that business into one of my existing locations because we took some of the employees from that location and really worked with them to bring some of that business into one of my existing locations, which speaks volumes about, just how talented our people are and how we were able to work with them to do that.
I think that's a really interesting insight in that to bring your client base over, you brought your people over because the relationship existed, and that you continued even through COVID to invest in people. And I think that part of the hallmark of your success is, you people as an investment, and you've been able to retain them because of some of the things Dana talked about before, having compensation plans and bonus plans in place to retain them, and it works. I mean, you're a good example of how those kinds of strategies, when employed correctly, can have a tremendous impact on sustainability.
Yeah, I loved hearing Dana's presentation. So many light bulbs were going off as I was listening, even though I, had talked with Dana a little bit before, but I'm always looking for new and inventive ways to, reward my staff. My staff is the most important asset I have. I really firmly believe that. I always have instinctually felt that from the get. But I do pay them really well. I start there. I'm never afraid to pay my staff well. It's just in our DNA at Skirt. It's what I put most of my budget into. Before I love marketing. It lights me up. I spend, I'm not afraid to spend on marketing and those things too. But I would pay my team before I would pay. I put my money into my team before I'd put it into anything else. And Mark, you've even helped me push the envelope there over the years. So we do start with a great base salary, and then we build great bonuses on top of that. So my team pays for themselves. I never, ever, ever feel like I'm overpaying anyone on my team. Month after month, week after week, I always feel like they're paying for themselves. And so I just always am. It's the best check I write. We pay our team weekly, not bi-weekly, because it lights them up every week when they see those checks come in, because they've earned it every week. But hearing Dana talk too, I think there are other ways we could get inventive in terms of other perks that I'm excited to bring back to my team. I think in small businesses like mine, I have about 20 employees. The other great thing we can offer them is a direct line to the owner. Their ideas matter. I really listen to them. I really take their ideas and make them into reality, and they seem to really, that seems something that they don't get by working at a bigger retailer. For me, I've found a lot of great talent at bigger department stores, Bloomingdale's and Neiman Marcus and stores like that. And something that seems to give me an edge is that I say, if you have a charity partner that you love, if you have a brand that you think would really work for your clients, there's not, 10 lines of red tape. I'm the owner. Your ideas matter and become actual reality. And that's something that's really, really been a huge get for me, especially with younger employees that, everybody who works for me is like mini entrepreneurs. They're running their own business without the risk that, I took on 20 years ago. And, I really, really listen to them. And that's not just lip service. I really do, because that's the kind of people I'm hiring. I surround myself with people that are smarter than me in all different areas, from the stock person to the head buyer. And I really take in what they say, and it affects change in the organization.
That's great. Dana, you had talked a good segue from, having direct access to the owner. You mentioned 2 or 3 times in your presentation, the delivery of your CEO. Reminded me probably should, I think I communicate a lot, but it's never enough, right? But if you could just talk about you were talking about it earlier, but the rapid pace of talent in the marketplace and the changing of it, if you could just speak to that a little bit deeper, that would be great.
Yeah, and just a segue specifically from what Maureen said, you had mentioned, Maureen, just about, compensation and ideas and that gap of, or the timeline of an idea coming to be an idea to actually be an action plan or a marketing plan or an event is so small. And I think, again, just what I was saying before is closing the gap on that. If that is something that is just in the DNA of your organization, like that should be talked about with a potential store manager in the first interview. Because I remember we were recruiting for a store in Highland Park Village, and I learned that in Dallas, it is all about charity events and who's who and who's giving to what charity. And it's almost like looked down upon if your organization doesn't give to certain charities. So I say that because in the interview process, it may have been the second interview and the candidate's saying, well, I partnered with a local florist and I got the pricing from them, and I worked it out that for Mother's Day, I got them to give a flower to every person that came into the store, and I worked this, and I was like, wow, that's amazing. She's like, I love the fact that at my organization, overnight, I was able to do this. I brought all the information and it was actually able to happen. And for large organizations, that isn't able to happen so quickly. You would need to plan 3 months in advance to be able to make that into an actual event. So I say that because those are definitely things that in your interview process should be highlighted with potential candidates. And then Mark, just getting back to your question, I think that the time to hire is so imperative, because if a client likes the candidate, unless somebody's out of town that has to be a part of the interview process, or there's a test that's being taken and it's a project that's being done depending on the position, the ability for a company to close the gap on the time to hire will allow them to not lose out on talent. And it's just very plain and simple right now. The days of, we really, really like this person, but we want to see 3 other people. It's just that person you really, really like today, you're risking that they're not going to be available by the time you meet the other potential 3 people. So, sometimes it is not able to happen. Someone's out of town and they won't be back till next week and we have to wait on them. But if you do have control of that interview timeline, I would say make it as quick as possible, especially right now. So I think that answers your question, Mark.
That's great. Thank you, Dana. Peter, thank you for your patience today. We were interested in your perspective, especially as people rebuild their teams, and building on what Dana just said. What should they be keeping in mind as you think about this?
Thanks, Mark. And again, thanks for this opportunity for all of us to weigh in on these issues. I wanted to provide the audience with a little bit of perspective and context, maybe before I answer your question, just to underscore who we are as an organization. As you said, Mark, we're probably the foremost education and workforce preparedness organization of its kind, specifically targeted to identifying talent and moving them into the fashion apparel industry. We have every year a competition. We work with 66 schools, so it's the expected fashion schools, but it's colleges and universities, public and private, big and small, at which there's a talented student pursuing a course of study that could lead him or her into our industry. And so we have a case study competition across 4 disciplines, one being design and product development, but one being merchandising, one being marketing analytics, the other being supply chain, really hoping to capture the students that are pursuing coursework that could get them to our industry, but without our being the connector, they might not get there so easily. And what we're really excited about in terms of our results is that of those 66 schools, 8 are HBCUs, and many, many more are schools at which there's a significant population of students of color. So we're really tapping into a pipeline of talent, of diverse talent, that I think is can be a huge asset for our corporate partners and employer partners to connect to a student of color, a student who's first generation to college, a student who's significantly financially needy. These are all merit-based scholarship winners, and yet within that pool of scholarship winners, we've got a really exciting group of students. And I will say, echoing what Maureen and Dana said about this past year, no surprise, for students and recent graduates, it's been really destabilizing. First of all, if you were a student, you probably had to go home and we're back in your childhood bedroom, but you probably lost your summer internship because people were not providing them last summer. If you were a recent grad, you might have had your job offer rescinded, or you were probably, because you were most recent to hire, first to be furloughed. So, for these kids and this young talent, it's been a really challenging time. And I think to piggyback on what Dana explained is they're looking for a little bit of stability. They're definitely looking for a certain base comp level, but it's some of the other intangibles about what it means to work at a particular employee and what that culture might be that can be really differentiating for these students and recent grads. I would say to a person, they are committed to some socially impactful aspect of living their professional lives. So they really want to find an employer partner that has a similar commitment. That can be DEI, it can be sustainability, it can be transparency, but these are really kids that are so impressive in terms of their commitment to that aspect of what it means to be working in the industry. And that for them is very much a part of their value proposition. I would say too, echoing on what Dana said, is that we're finding that these top students go quickly. So employers are looking for them earlier and earlier. Probably September or October, if you're a graduating senior, is a time at which you're getting connected to an employer that wants you to join them when you graduate. So the process and the cadence is definitely sped up considerably. And the other thing, Mark, I just wanted to add in terms of the diversity of our talent pool, it's probably 40% BIPOC, which is a significant and impressive percentage. Those students and recent grads are looking for people like them at an employer partner. So they really want to know that they're not going to be the first to be hired. They want to see others, hear from others, be recruited by others that are relatable, that make it feel like a peer-to-peer relationship, so that when they arrive, that onboarding isn't so challenging. It's one that can be made smoother by the fact that the culture of the employer partner is one that has values that is shared with this recent grad. So it's an exciting time. It's I think a challenging time if you're young talent. But I think to Dana and Maureen's point, there's a lot of opportunity out there. And I think the students that we work with are feeling excited about what that might mean for them in terms of their future.
Well, thank you for that, Peter, and thanks for sharing some scope on the Fashion Scholarship Fund. That's great work that you've been doing, and we're, again, glad to be partnering with you. Matter of fact, I didn't know about you until Mike came aboard, so I'm a little embarrassed myself.
Mike.
But I'm going to, we have more questions, but we want to take questions from the audience. And I know that before we do that, Mike's got some things to share, and I'm going to turn it over to Nico and Mike. Thank you. We'll come back to questions in a little bit.
Great. Well, thanks, Mark, and thanks, panelists. I think that conversation probably could have gone on for another half an hour, and with all sorts of interesting topics related to talent and hiring. We'll get to questions from the audience in just a minute, but I wanted to take a moment to talk a little bit more about a new program that the Fashion Scholarship Fund is launching, the Friends of the Fashion Scholarship Fund. The Fashion Scholarship Fund to me is it's a great cause, right? We're helping young people who might not otherwise have the chance to pursue careers in a field that they love. And that's just the right thing to do. So that's what motivates me to be involved. And I think it should motivate, you too. Many of our retail customers at Management One are involved in the fashion industry, whether it's apparel or footwear or even, gift or home or beauty. Those are all things the Fashion Scholarship Fund covers and, relevant industries. So I feel like, it's something that's about building the sort of next generation of talent and supporting that. But there's also actually a really pragmatic reason that it can be advantageous for a company to become a friend of the Fashion Scholarship Fund. Essentially, the friend of the Fashion Scholarship Fund get an opportunity to participate in the fund's programs related to talent recruitment. You get recognized as an employer who supports young talent, and it can be great for your employment brand, right, as Dana was talking about. And today, through June 8th, we're actually happy to announce that since Management One will be matching gifts up to $5,000, your level of support will actually be doubled. So if you give a gift of $250, you'll qualify for benefits at the level of $500. And so I won't go through all of the benefits here in detail because I do want to get to Q&A, but some of the key benefits that you can get at various levels are acknowledgement of your company as a contributor, as a friend of the Fashion Scholarship Fund on the Fashion Scholarship Fund website, which has a pretty amazing reach, featured in the annual report. There's a virtual celebration every year. There's a virtual celebration in January of 2022 that will be about celebrating the scholars that have been awarded grants during the past year. At higher levels, there are access to professional development programs, which I think can be really exciting. It's open to your employees, right? So you can provide training and professional development to your team, not just yourself. And at higher levels, there are even opportunities to post jobs and attend selected in-person events for the Fashion Scholarship Fund. So I think again, the Fashion Scholarship Fund is a great opportunity for us all to support young people in their careers, and I think it's really exciting. I mean, I've always enjoyed really meeting the kids. They're exciting, they're passionate, they're great kids. But it's also good for business. So I encourage you to contribute. You can go to the fashionscholarshipfund.org/friends, and we will match your gift through June 8th. But any level of support will help. So thanks for your attention, and I'll now turn it back over to Nico for Q&A from the audience.
Thank you, Mike. And I actually went ahead and put that URL in the chat function for GoToWebinar, so don't worry about trying to pull it off the screen here. I'll put it right in chat, and we'll also include that in a follow-up email as well. So questions for our panel. We actually do have some questions coming in here. Let me start at the top. Natalie was asking, the pandemic really gutted us, and we're trying to rebuild. We haven't been able to give raises for a while. Pay is a really hard thing for us to be cutting edge on. What do you recommend? And I'll probably turn that to either Mark or Maureen, I guess. Oh, you're on mute, Mark.
Maureen, go ahead. I'll give you.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to really challenge you here and say that I think you should bonus your employees on what they sell. And I think that you will be pleasantly surprised. And this was what Mark challenged me to do many years ago when I was doing well, I was chugging along, but I had hit a plateau and I didn't know how to grow my business. And he challenged me to not give my employees raises, but to put the ability to grow my sales in the hands of my very talented sales team and give them really generous bonuses. And I'll share with you guys, I hope this doesn't come off as confusing, but in general, how I pay my team, do you think this is too confusing to share? I'll try to break it down. What I pay my sales team is 7% of their sales. I pay them, oh God, okay. I pay them 7% of their sales or their hourly pay, whichever is higher. So if they don't hit 7% of their sales, I still give them their hourly pay, which is a nice hourly rate, a really nice hourly rate, whichever is higher, and it's usually higher. And once I did that, their sales exploded. I mean, exploded. And I pay them every single week. So if they have a bad week, that's okay, because the next week they come in fighting and their sales explode. And once I did that, my sales shot through the roof. So I know that the pandemic gutted you. I do. I really get it on like that level that I'm in it with you and I know it. But if you can take that leap and let your employees really get in there and be in it with you and reward them with you, I really think it works.
And I think you also were, I just want to say you were also very generous when they reached certain levels, paying them additional bonuses as well.
Okay,
So,
I'll share that too. And I know everyone's price points out there are different. So this might be meaningful to some and less meaningful to others. So you have to find what works for you. But, you know, my average sale in my store is about $500. To put it into perspective, that's our store's average sale. So when my salespeople hit $1 million in sales, I bonus them with a $10,000 bonus. And everyone gasps when I give that number. But to also put that into perspective, when I started this, you know, I don't know, it's probably been about 7 years that I've been doing this. My highest, my best seller, my biggest salesperson, she was hitting about $800,000 a year in sales. And Mark gave me this idea, and I was like, $10,000? I can't afford a $10,000. How could I write a $10,000 check? How could I? And he said, would you pay $10,000 to increase your sales this year to $200,000? And I said, well, yes, of course I would pay $10,000 to increase my sales $200,000. And he said, well, then what do you have to lose? So I did it, and I announced this to everyone, and I said, if anyone hits $1 million in sales, I'm going to bonus you $10,000. And they were like, okay, great. And that top salesperson hit $1 million in sales in October. So you can imagine I increased my sales way more than $10,000 to $200,000 that year. That was the best check I wrote all year. And so many people hit $1 million now because everyone wants to hit that goal. And I write lots of $10,000 checks now, and they're the best checks I write. I show up Ed McMahon style with a big giant check and balloons for lots of employees, and they're the best checks I write. And I know it sounds like you can't afford it, but you can't afford not to if you want to grow your business.
and I want to say that part of what's allowed, you know, retailers this past year, the 2 PPP draws, you know, how you use that money, it was intended to use for your people. So what a great time to use that PPP money to invest in people and take your business really to the next level.
Yep. And I'm glad you went into that, Maureen, because a follow-up question came through that asked, can you outline your company's bonus program? So we knocked that one out right off the bat. The next question here, I'll start with Dana, but obviously the whole panel can tackle this. So Enver is asking, how did COVID change the way retailers had to quickly adapt better e-commerce integration practices into their business model as opposed to pre-COVID? And what stood out for them to transition the physical to the digital side? I think in a recruiting aspect.
Well, for us, we saw a big shift of customer service associates being actually recruited internally by retail associates. So they overnight turned sales associates into virtual stylists, virtual associates, and quickly tried to give them the tools to make that happen. So they were going from physically selling to somebody to virtually selling to somebody. And they quickly worked with their team of training them and engaging with them and giving them the confidence that, you know, the person's not there to touch and feel the product or try on the product, but what can you do to romanticize them? What language can you use? What tools can we provide you with to be able to still sell, but not physically in person? And then also we saw a lot of companies utilizing their stores more as e-commerce hubs and almost like warehouses. So somebody may be ordering online, but actually they're receiving something from a Boston store. So really quickly shifting, and I know I hate to use the word because I feel like it's so overused these days, but pivoting to say, okay, we're going to train our team from the e-commerce site to receive it in the store in Boston and then ship that out. So I think that companies really try to quickly provide tools and training to be able to best utilize their current staff and use their skills that are quite transferable.
Love that. I'm also guilty of saying pivoting still, so you're not alone there. This next question is for Peter. Michelle is asking, how can businesses tap into scholarship fund candidates looking for work?
Yeah, I was remiss in not adding a little to what was already a long-winded answer to Mark's question, but once you are a scholar, you are in our talent pool, and what we endeavor to do at least twice yearly is have a virtual talent acquisition event on a platform that allows employer partners, 24/7 is often a participant, to then meet virtually a group of students. Generally, you'll get to meet 15 to 20 of them in the course of a several-hour session. They've all submitted their CVs and other supporting materials ahead of time. So it's a very efficient way of interviewing what we'd like to suggest is a kind of pre-screen vetted group of talent that are interested in working in a specific space in the industry and with a specific employer partner with whom they sign up. So 2 virtual talent acquisition events. We have a kind of password protected LinkedIn job site that our partners can avail themselves of. We promote lots of job opportunities across all our social platforms. And then our staff, we field requests pretty regularly, daily, from corporate partners of ours who are looking for a specific hire, a specific kind of talent, perhaps in a specific area, or checks boxes. So it's a very thoughtful pairing of our talent with opportunities. So it's really an interesting 360 approach to trying to connect the talent that we have in our pool of scholarship winners with the opportunities out there.
Excellent. This next question would be for Dana as well. Natalie is asking, when you're referencing DEI goals, what are your clients utilizing? What resources are they utilizing to target minority hiring just to hit those DEI goals?
It really depends on the organization and what DEI means to them. And I say that because, is it hiring more individuals in a certain demographic? Is it hiring more women in a certain industry? I mean, or in certain sector of their business. So I say that only because I had received a new job from a large global retailer, and she's like, I really need you to present diverse candidates. So we presented like 3 or 4 people. And then we had this conversation, which was really eye-opening, that she's like, just so you know, for our IT team, actually, I need you to specifically recruit and present women. So that to that specific team, DEI may have meant something different. So I think, first of all, how do you define DEI, and how do you define it in the needs of your individual organization? And then I think that it really is just aligning with organizations that are groups that are what you're targeting. So it could be even, for entry-level talent, it could be, speaking with someone like Peter and saying, how can we partner with you to attract entry-level, 2 years out of school design talent? Or it could be organizations like Black in Fashion or Raise Fashion, or it could be an organization like ColorCom, which is people of color in media and communications. So I think that sometimes it is really just reading articles and Googling and being really involved in LinkedIn and what people are posting. But I think first, the organization really needs to define of what DEI means to their specific recruiting needs.
And a follow-up question to that from Scott. He's asking for suggestions for hiring candidates in new markets where they don't have any contacts or referrals.
Well, that really is where an agency comes into play, just because, like, for us, we have 11 offices globally. And I would say in most markets, we may not have an office, but we have presence and a candidate pool. But also it is, really locally networking in that area to better understand where you need to be budget-wise. I mean, we have some organizations that, I'm giving an example, Valley Fair right now, right, on the West Coast. There's a lot of stores renovating and opening, and companies are coming to us that we want to hire a store manager at X. Well, they end up hiring someone at Y because of just what's happening in that specific market right now. Or it could be that an organization's opening a store in a new mall, right? So you think about that. So there's only so many store managers and all of these stores are opening at the same time. So that may be a market where you really may have to be a little bit more flexible of your store manager budget or sales associate budget. But overall, I think it is really just understanding what the current market is like for the talent that you're looking to hire. And of course, like, where can you compromise? I mean, I tell companies all the time, they're like, I want a store manager with 5 to 7 years from these companies. And it's like, well, how about an assistant store manager that's been in a company for 5 years and their manager has been there for 7 years and they're not going anywhere, but they're ready for the next step. Sometimes those people are the golden nuggets, so to say, because they're able to hire them at less money, so to say, and they're really able to not only bump them up a little bit, but they're within budget and they already have that management level of experience and they can really hit the ground running. They're just not going to be given that opportunity at their current employer.
Absolutely. The final question here for Maureen, when you're talking about empowering your sales staff, Robert was asking, do your salespeople use a CRM to communicate with their customers? And if so, which one?
Yes, we just started using a CRM in January. It's called One Shop and we're really happy with it. We just started using a CRM in January, but we have always clienteled and religiously, psychotically, it's something we are really serious about and probably got serious about it when we started our bonus program. They go hand in hand. So every sales staff has a book of business. They are their own entrepreneurs. They build their own businesses. That's why they pay for themselves. If they want to make more money, we ask our team during our, at their review, how much money do you want to make this year? And how am I going to help you get there? Not this is your raise, not how much money do you want to make? Okay, great. Let's get you there. How can I help? And using a CRM helps us do that really faster and efficiently. And when we bring on a new hire, it says like, okay, here's all the customers that are falling through the cracks that no one's claiming, that that someone, here you go. Here's 500 customers that no one is reaching out to. That's how you're going to build your book of business. So a CRM, I think, is going to really help us in the coming year.
I think it's a great example of how you transitioned after COVID as well. I mean, you took an existing process and streamlined it and made it work better for you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, on that note, that was our final question. I wanted to thank everybody here for fielding these questions. Thank you to the audience for submitting them. And I will turn it over to Mark Weiss.
Well, I want to again thank the FSF. Dana, it's great to meet you. Peter, it's been great to meet you. Mike, again, thank you for introducing Maureen. Thank you again for your insight and thoughts and your enthusiasm and your support. And one of the things that I would want to leave everybody with is, an article I wrote in last week's blog that I got from Walt Disney. Keep moving on. There's a little Disney in all of us, and make that in your stores and your people. You'll find good talent, and always be looking for talent. And don't wait for tomorrow to hire them. Hire them now. One question I always get is, people are, so many people want to stay on unemployment. Well, we don't want those people anyway. We want people who are working, who are engaged, who are really out there and be ready to hire. And I think that was an important message that Dana shared today. And we're not in a world where we can wait. And you can always make decisions later, but be active and focus on people. and be prepared for the fourth quarter because it's coming and it's going to be wonderful, and you need people to support it to make it happen. So thank you all very much. And again, it's been a pleasure being part of this today, and obviously meeting Peter and Dana, and hope to have more conversations with you in the near future. Thank you so much. Maureen, again, thank you. And Mike, thank you very much for bringing that to us.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks to Management One for its generous support of FSF. Much appreciated.
Our pleasure. Nico,
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Until next time.
Right, until next time. Bye.